Hi everyone, welcome to the first episode of Pokémon Deep Dive. In this Pokémon Unite series, I'm going to be testing Pokémon with very low win rates over 100 games. I'm going to be tracking all of my games and working out what the strengths and weaknesses of these low win rate Pokémon are, and how good they are for climbing solo queue. Over the last 5 days, I've played 100 games of Buzzwole. This is to make sure that I really understand how to play it and working out the best build, how it should be played, and why I think it's good or bad. Whilst playing these games, I've been keeping track of some stats that I think are important. These are damage dealt, taken, what lane I played, and how many wins/losses I had. If you want to see the spreadsheet, there will be a link in the description. First is the build I used, which was muscle band, attack weight, and weakness policy. I think this is the best build because Buzzwole has a lot of early fighting power, and you want to make use of that as much as possible. I wouldn't recommend playing anything else. I also used X speed almost every game, as I could tell that I really needed the extra mobility, especially when I tested games with eject button and X attack. Next is lane assignment. Over the challenge, I played 73 games of top lane, 13 bottom, and 14 jungle. I quickly found top lane to be the most comfortable. This gave me the ability to stay top for the second set of Bs and stack my attack weight. Next is damage dealt. For the first half, when I was using Buddy Barrier instead of weakness policy, I was averaging 58,439 damage per game. After switching to weakness policy, my average damage went up to 70,407, which is just shy of 12k more average damage per game. As for damage taken, I averaged all 100 games, and that was an average of 56,934. Finally, the most important stat, win rate. I had 61 wins and 39 losses, leaving a 61% win rate. All the games were played solo in Masters. I started at just over 1600 points, peaking at 1792. Now I'm going to explain Buzzwole's kit. Buzzwole's passive is an attack gauge. It increases when hitting opponents with your jumps or basic attacks. This gauge will make your Fell Stinger, Superpower, or Leech Life more powerful dependent on the stacks that have been consumed. Buzzwole's charged basic attack is a double punch, granting you 2 stacks of your attack gauge and healing you. This can feel quite clunky early, but is made much better with X speed. At the start of the game, you take Mega Punch, making it easier to farm the APOMs. Mega Punch is a short jump that hits the ground in a large area for a small amount of damage. This will also grant an attack gauge stack if hitting an enemy Pokemon. The next move you get is Fell Stinger. This is the most important part of Buzzwole's early game. Hitting this move will deal massive damage with full attack gauge stacks. At level 5 you get your first move upgrade. At the time of recording, the only move you should use is Superpower. Leech Life needs massive buffs to the numbers or Unstoppable to be useful. Superpower picks up the enemy and can direct where you slam them, dealing massive single target damage and splash damage, granting you an 8 to 17% shield dependent on attack gauge. This move is good with no attack gauge and completely overpowered with full attack gauge. At level 7 you can choose Lunge or Smackdown. Lunge is a short dash with similar range to Mega Punch, but it has 2 charges and a decent recharge rate with extremely low cooldown between uses. This gives Buzzwole some much needed mobility in a lot of games to maneuver around the fights and find its targets. Lunge also has a bunch of extra effects, reducing enemies' move speed and attack speed by 30%, which are the most important ones, and increasing Buzzwole's attack speed and giving you 1 attack gauge stack for each enemy hit. The other move choice is Smackdown. This punches the enemy away and can be reactivated to jump you to them and slam down, dealing damage. Both abilities are good, but you suffer a great deal by not having the extra mobility from Lunge. Your targets late game are squishy carries, so having Smackdown with super low range makes it very one-dimensional on how you play it. There are times when this is the better choice against heavy melee comps, but I'd recommend taking Lunge every game until you reach a really high mastery of the Pokemon. Finally is the Unite move, Ultra Swole Slam. This jumps you in the direction you choose, flying you up into the air and crashing down. If the initial jump hits an enemy, it will target them and slam on them for a guaranteed hit. If the initial jump hits multiple Pokemon, it will target the enemy with the lowest HP. Whilst Buzzwole's ult does deal damage to the lowest HP enemy, it's more often used for the extra stats you gain for using your Unite move, especially in the late game fighting for Zapdos. You'll be using this move along with X speed and lunge to find and knock out high priority targets. For the rest of this video, I've gathered a load of clips from when I was streaming all the games. I basically just want to talk over the clips and give my overall thoughts on Buzzwole. I think Buzzwole has one of the best early to mid games in the entire game. Once hitting level 5, there's not many mons in the game that come close to your power, especially if you can stick onto them and stack your passive up and use your superpower. Alongside the passive buff, when you get a kill, it makes diving Pokemon super easy, being able to pull them off the score zones. He also has some of the best early setup in the game. I think that top lane is probably the best lane to play Buzzwole. If you match the enemy, if they're stacking, it makes you get super close to level 5 and you can beat them. Even if you go against double range or ice lane, you can still get to 1 or 2 stacks and back off, or you can try fight them with X speed. If you don't feel comfortable stacking early, you can also just go for your own APOMs. Guarantee yourself level 4 and look to get level 5 off the bees/middle crabs and the next rotation of your own APOMs. The last option I think for early game is to just fight the enemy stacker. Pretty much the only Pokemon that can survive fighting Buzzwole at level 3 is Lucario, and that's because he can push you away and dash away. I think the versatility that this Pokemon has gives you so many options to try and get a lead over your opponent that are based around fighting/bullying them. Another reason top is great is because worst case scenario, if you're confident in your ability to carry a fight after the enemy team get Dreadnought, you can stay top, get your 6 stacks of attack weight, get your ultimate, and hard carry a fight. This shouldn't be a regular occurrence, only the games where something goes horribly wrong, like your jungle against the opposite side of the map, and you lose bot gold before Dreadnought. Otherwise, getting level 7 from second bees and just rotating for Dreadnought helps you out the most. I'm almost certain that if you put in the effort to learn Buzzwole, it's at worst middle of the pack, and at best completely overpowered. Some of the weaknesses that Buzzwole does have is fighting big 5v5s. I found that I'm playing him as much more of an assassin in the late game, looking for a pick or to trade his low value Unite for high value Unites like Blissey or Machamp. If you get on top of someone 1v1 late game, or in 1v2s, you can easily find kills as the Zapdos is spawning, assuming you don't miss every ability. So worst case you're forcing your enemies to use their high value Unites, and best case you're getting a kill. This is made especially easy with clever use of terrain and your double jumps, your CC you can stall pretty long, or using your X speed to disengage. Most of the weaknesses you have are late game, especially based around not having X speed, both your lunges and your Unite. Without these it's almost impossible to reach your high value targets, so making sure you have your Unite and X speed for Zap is insanely important. Another small weakness you have is your Unite charge rate. Most games I'm only getting 3 Unites off, sometimes 4 if I'm playing really greedily, which compared to something like Serena, Pikachu or Delphox, where you're looking to use 5 to 7 Unites per game, it's definitely nowhere near as frequent as those. I honestly can't praise this Pokemon enough. I'm not sure why people can't seem to make it work, but I hope this video has shown you that this Pokemon is really strong, and is backed up by my win rate and my rank increase. The last thing I want to address is the build. I see a lot of people using crit on Buzzwole. For me, I'll always be prioritising attack damage and cooldown on Buzzwole. Buzzwole's superpower has 230% attack scaling, and its Unite has 213%. Felstinger also has 160% attack scaling. This means getting an extra flat 48 attack from your items gives you a lot of power to try and gain a lead early, and push that through to late game team fights. With all of the extra percentage increases accounted for with the items, you really don't have to rely on critting to have enough damage. Having covered the last 100 games I've played and my thoughts, I want to make some predictions before the new map comes out. I think with the release of the new map, Buzzwole is only going to get stronger. From what I've seen so far, a lot more of the wild Pokemon are contested, meaning there'll be a lot more fighting over these contested Pokemon. Buzzwole really excels at getting in these early fights and scrapping. Not only that, at the start of the new map I think people will be getting lost a lot, and not really knowing what to do / where to go, giving the opportunity for more of those few player skirmishes that Buzzwole really loves. I also think that Buzzwole will match up pretty well into 2 of the 3 new Pokemon, so it's looking bright for Buzzwole. If you have any questions about Buzzwole, or you'd like an in-depth guide, especially when the new map is out, let me know. I'm expecting the next video of this series to be out mid-September, once everything is settled with Mew's release. Let me know what low win rate Pokemon you'd like to see next, and I'll be back very soon with more videos.